And here we are, Craven the Hunter. Yes, David, you're here with the comic book, the Mighty Marvel Masterworks, collecting the Craven. I guess I assume the origin and continuing adventures of the latest Marvel character to get the big screen treatment. And we're going to talk about that the big screen. I can't say it. I can barely bring myself to talk about this movie. That's how tongue-tied and disinterested I am. Although, David, we went to see Craven the Hunter the other night, and I had a really good time while also acknowledging that the movie is mostly a slog and is completely ridiculous. But, it's part of it is a laugh riot, and you just wonder how, why, I don't know, but we're going to talk about it. Hold on a second. We've got a late entry to the hunt. Katie Glidewell, the buzzed in front, aka the blonde in front. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. Can you still see me?
Yep, we can.
Yes. You didn't camouflage. You're not that good a hunter.
No, yeah, I don't know what just happened. It just went. It's like then all of a sudden I can't see you guys.
I have something besides coffee in my cup that is being camouflaged. So there you go. There's coffee in here, but there's also
could be anything.
We're at Festival of Foods, and they had a sample for this Irish cream that they had in this really fancy bottle, and I'm like, I don't want a sample. And my wife's like, yeah, you do. Try a sample. I tried a sample. We bought a bottle, and it goes great with your coffee. Cheers.
I was gonna say, you're gonna drink it the entire night on the live stream.
Well, after I finish my coffee, I have my long drink. So there we go.
Long drink.
Wow, you are partying up. It sounds like you're craving.
I'm craving something.
To forget us talking about this movie.
Well, let's just say I anticipate the discussion that we had before we jumped online about David's Bucky's sweatshirt to be far more interesting in the contents of the film. But we're going to get into it. This is the latest and I believe the last attempt by Sony Pictures to capitalize on the Marvel villains that they could license with the Spider-Man character without actually being able to use Spider-Man. It began with Venom all those years ago and 2 sequels to Venom. Madam Web, which opened at the beginning of the year. And Morbius. Who can forget Morbius? I didn't forget Morbius. Morbius forgot Morbius.
Don't forget Morbius. Come on.
Yeah. Morbin
Everyone
time.
else forgot Morbius. So you
Oscar winner Jared Leto.
Can you miss or Morbin time? Come on.
Well, David, you brought up a good point. Oscar winner Jared Leto. In this movie, we got Oscar winner Ariana DeBose. Oscar nominee, at least, I think.
Tom Hardy.
Yep.
Well, I'm not thinking about Tom Hardy. I'm thinking of Russell Crowe, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, he's an Oscar winner.
Yeah, he's an Oscar winner.
I couldn't remember if he won or if it was just nominated.
He won for Gladiator.
He won for Gladiator, yeah.
Isn't Aaron Taylor Johnson a nominee?
Yeah,
he's just a Golden Globe winner.
Golden Globe, yeah.
Yeah.
Or nominee. I forget. I don't know.
For what?
Yeah, what did he get nominated for?
I thought he was nominated for that movie with Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Shannon.
I don't know.
Something animals.
Animals.
Nocturnal Animals.
Yeah. Yes, I thought he was nominated, or maybe I don't know.
I don't remember him even being in that movie. Anyway, it's not important. Much like the movie we're going to talk about tonight. So before we get into it, who are we? We are Earth's Mightiest Critics. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of The Spoiler Room, and also Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front. So welcome, everybody. Thank you. And this is the last Kicking the Seat live stream of 2024 for Earth's Mightiest Critics. I know we're going out on a quote-unquote high note. Don't worry, folks. This is not the last show, just the last live one, because we got the holidays coming up and schedules are all crazy.
You mean we're not going to get together Thursday night and talk about the Superman trailer?
No.
No.
I've heard good things. There's a lot of hype around it. I'm willing to be won over, but let's just keep it positive and talk about Craven the Hunter. Okay,
positive.
DC shill will totally ignore the comments that have come.
It's positively a movie, I can tell you that.
Are you positive about that, David? You've been holding up the comic book. You are immersed in the lore. Tell us about Kraven the Hunter, the movie, the character, the man, the myth, the legend, and all that good stuff. Brief synopsis, the high points.
Synopsis, the high points. Well, did you ever think that? Let's see. A live action Rhino could be actually worse than Paul Giamatti in a Rhino robot suit? Did you ever think that? Did you ever think that that could possibly happen?
No.
There was a bar set there, and I didn't think they would cross it. And
so they did release the first 8 minutes before the movie came out online. And you know what? It was some pretty good 8 minutes. And yeah, so in the beginning of the movie, Kraven breaks into jail or gets himself into jail, and he breaks out of jail.
Siberia, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And after killing a Bulgarian or Russian goon head mafia dude, is good wine. And there's so many things.
I just love that everyone, I mean, I didn't realize that Kraven is actually made us drink. Like you guys, everyone, it's like Mark, I feel like is about to be like totally sloshed with this. And this is amazing.
I'm from Wisconsin. Are you kidding?
Great.
I'm drinking coffee
like,
in my defense.
Off the wagon. Like I love it.
I'm drinking blood of lion.
Lion.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of an amazing movie when you think about it. So Kraven breaks out of jail. He runs through the Arctic tundra of Siberia, and he finds himself running onto a plane that's somehow he is in connection with a pilot that flies him around the world. I don't know why, because he really has no relationship with his gazillionaire gangster father. So who knows where he gets that money? Maybe he gets a Kraven allowance. I don't know. Or
I have a theory, but we'll get to it.
Okay, cool. So his name's what? Dimitri? I don't know, something like that. Anyway,
Sergey.
Sure.
His brother's Dimitri.
Yeah, something like that.
Demo.
Yeah. I remember the names from Honora better. Anyway, oh man, if we could just combine both movies, that'd be great. Sean Baker's Kraven. So wow. then not too long after that, we spend a good 20-30 minutes in flashback origin of Kraven, and a young Kraven and his brother. They are basically same age. They are growing up and going to school in New York. What's going on?
And then they get a phone call. No.
Then they get a phone call. And they are going to school in New York somewhere. I don't know why. And their Russian father shows up, played by Oscar winner Russell Crowe. He shows up in like a limo, picks up the boys, and your mother is dead. And where are you taking us to? If you don't know, we go hunting. And they fly to Africa. Long story short, he gets bit by a lion, and it's almost like DiCaprio and the bear and the Revenant, and they get kind of the lions all over the place, and just like it lines up perfectly where his blood, the lion's blood, drips into a gaping hole in the boy's body, and then we jump in like Ant-Man, like the little camera, and we go and look at his blood and the lion's blood.
You're forgetting the magic fluid, David.
I'm getting there.
Okay, well then get there. I said brief synopsis.
And then watching this happen is the granddaughter of a voodoo priestess. What's her name? Calypso.
Calypso.
And she happens to have this hand-me-down the special juice. It's good stuff. And she doesn't know what it does, but maybe it'll help the guy. And he's kind of cute, and She pours it in his mouth, and then we go down into his body again, and we see the lion's blood and his blood, and then the special juice, and it's amazing.
Special juice. I love it.
Special juice is special juice.
Special juice.
And
in Russia, beverage drinks you.
and then he becomes one with all animals, all lion, and he's a great hunter, and he's an animal advocate, but he's also a great hunter. But he becomes hunter of human, which is man is the most dangerous creature of all. So, and then eventually his brother turns into chameleon. It's crazy because he sings like Michael Bublé and Frank Sinatra. I can't believe it.
For anybody who cares, I'm putting on the spoiler banner because David, you just gave away the ending of the movie, the setup for Craven 2.
I mean, he's a chameleon throughout the whole movie. He talks,
Yeah.
he sings just like Bublé and Sinatra, and Harry Styles. He sounds just like him.
Was that your Harry Styles? What's
I'm
up, Mark?
I'm the DC shill, and I didn't even know. I'm like, is there a character named Chameleon? Because that's who this guy is going to be within 2 minutes of when they do the voice acting. I'm like, oh, I bet you he's going to become a guy called Chameleon. And I barely know Spider-Man, so I thought I recognized the name Chameleon. That could be why it popped from my subconscious. But at the same time, I'm like, I didn't know if he was related to Craven, but I didn't care. But I just looked at it going, oh yeah, he's Chameleon. And yeah, there you go.
The Chameleon Strikes. Yeah, there he is.
Issue
Right
1
from the comics.
So yeah, so that wasn't really a spoiler because you're like, okay, hey, look, we're in a superhero film and this guy's got a special ability to mimic people. Oh, that's not going to come into play later.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
you don't know if that's going to be is just saved for the sequel or what, but they give us the full-on transformation at the end. It's kind of cool. One thing I was not expecting from this movie was that it was going to be a complete villain showcase. I mean, we've ostensibly got Craven, who is going to be somehow, maybe, I don't know, based on what this movie is showing me, a Spider-Man villain. We've got Rhino, we've got Chameleon, and we have the Foreigner, played by Christopher Abbott. Christopher, I act in respectable movies. Abbott is in this movie. I don't know what Sony has on all of these actors, if it's like email
Money.
blackmail material or something, but
It's
it
money.
can't be the money. They could not have been spending that much.
we now
on this
have a
production.
Sinister Six.
Yeah. Everybody likes boats and everybody likes lake houses. This is how you get these people in these movies.
I was thinking more of like islands and surveillance video, but if you want to go the legit route, sure.
I was thinking of alimony, but
There you go. So essentially, yeah, we've got Craven is the hunter of humans. The reason I think he's able to afford this lavish lifestyle is I imagine he became very good at what he does, and he's taking these contracts to put people out, and so he takes the money and builds this crazy compound with these amazing weapons repositories. He's an animal lover, but he wears a lot of leather and fur. He catches up with Calypso years later, and they become kind of partners in crime. Rhino is a character that shows up. He's kind of a guy who looks like a Mormon, and he acts like Elon Musk. He's got a special backpack with a fluid that he can engage to turn himself into a rhino, but he doesn't want to. Yeah, because it's painful. It hurts, just like Wolverine in the first X-Men when he pops his claw. It hurts every time. But eventually things come to a head. Nemo, the little brother, who's a disappointment to his crime lord father, but he basically had no choice but to raise Demo into this world of, this underworld, become his apprentice because Craven, Sergei, left when they were teenagers to go find his own way. It turns out Dad's behind all of it somehow. I still don't understand that quite. But you've got the Foreigner, the Rhino, the Craven, who else was it? The Chameleon. He coming to a head, and it's a setup for another movie, except half the characters are dead. And that's where we're at. But here's my question. At the end of this film, Craven he's not a superhero, but he is not even really an anti-hero. He's kind of trying to do a good thing by killing bad people and ultimately severing the ties with his criminal underworld family. how does this translate to him someday going up against Spider-Man? Any ideas? Any
Let me tell you
theories?
why. There's a key part in the movie where he has worse fear come to life. And
Spiders.
it's spiders
Oh,
crawling
yeah.
all over him. It is worse fear for Craven the Hunter to have spiders crawling all over him. It is a big time foreshadowing for nothing that's going to happen in future.
I get this. Look, the spider is Sony's way of keeping that very tentative tie, but among their franchises. I get that, but again, my question is, how does that translate to him hating Spider-Man? Is the answer in the comics? Is it in the screenplay? We'll never see
fear
it.
for him. He
I
is
get it. It's a
Craven the
fear,
Hunter,
but
he
look,
has big time fear of spiders.
Bruce Wayne had a big time fear of bats, and he didn't become anti-Batman.
He's more stable.
No,
All right.
The spider shot was literally when I saw the spider shot in the context of the film, I'm like, oh, so you threw this in here so you could use this in the trailer so you could pull people in to think that, oh, he's going to actually be dealing with Spider-Man. I'm like, okay, well played. Well played. You totally used this shot specifically for that. And that's what that whole scene was for.
Basically, but I don't know if anybody who was involved in this production thought that it was going to lead to something else, or if they figured this is kind of the last hurrah, let's just make it silly as hell. But Katie, let's ask. I want to get your perspective on things because we've been jawboning about this quote unquote movie. What did you think of Craven? Did you have any anticipation of seeing it? Were you familiar with the comics at all?
No, I have no familiarity with the comics. I actually call this, and I wrote it down, White Twilight Panther, because that's what I got after watching the movie. It's definitely from the beginning when he's in the jail and breaking out. I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely White Panther. And then when he got to the forest, and I'm like, okay, now he's doing like an Edward Cullen kind of thing. It's like, I get it. So we're doing White Twilight Panther. And then since I'm not familiar with anything with the comics and stuff like that, all I could think of when I was looking at Rhino was like, so is he are they blatantly copying from Iron Man 3? Because this is a major Iron Man 3 thing where the Nemesis in Iron Man 3 does the exact same thing. Where he's like, I want to be your buddy and let's do this. And it's like, you disgust me. And then he ends up like, I'm going to make sure that I ruin your life. It's like, okay, all right. Yeah, I saw this and I didn't like that movie that much either.
Hey. No need to get carried away hating Craven and Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 is amazing. Guy Pearce at the end. But
Guy Pearce. But here's the thing, Professor Miles Warren. Okay, so they drop that name. Apparently, this guy, the Rhino saw him, and I would definitely bet that Dima, Sergei's brother, saw him too. Mm-hmm. I was confused with a lot of things because it's like, okay, his dad wanted Craven to be this man. He's like, I'm not going to be like you and I'm going to leave, but he has another brother. So then why didn't he just put all of that? He's like, okay, now I'm going to make sure your brother gets all this stuff. And it's like, but he didn't. And then also, why was his brother like, well, he's just an illegitimate son. It's like, that still means he's your son. Just because you weren't married to his mom, that still means he's half you. Do you not understand what that means? Like, that to me seemed very stupid. Also, the ending, and I'm glad we got the spoilers. Wow, they really should have had a taller actor, because when they did the, there were not that many people in my theater, but when that happened, including myself, who did not laugh at that?
It was
when what happened? I've forgotten most of this movie. Refresh my memory. What are you talking about?
So, for anyone who hasn't seen it, Dima, who is Craven's brother, is very upset. Neither one of them really like their dad. But then Dima, it's like a year later after things have happened, Then for some reason, Dima's like really mad that it's like, well, you just ended up being just like him. I went and saw this doctor and he changed me into something. And he's like walking away from Kraven and he turns around and then he's turned into Kraven's face. The thing is, he's a good 6 inches shorter than him. So it looks like it's Danny DeVito with Aaron Taylor Johnson's face. And I was like, oh, come on. This is real bad.
It's like that scene in Deadpool Wolverine with the shorty
Wolverine.
Yeah. I mean, it just, and then he turns around. He's like, now I'm the chameleon and all this stuff. And it's like his face goes to like, you know, a gray alien. And then it goes to him. And it's like, okay, that's how we're going to do that, huh? I mean, look, thank you to Sony for the drops of the man meat. I'm sorry to sexualize this, but it's like when it's like, and cue time, 4 minutes in, shirtless Taylor Johnson. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then also the BDE at the end, where again, Aaron Taylor Johnson, lion vest, on a throne, big dick energy just coming at you through that screen, and end of movie. And I'm like, okay, all right, I see you, Sony. I see what you're doing. You're going to start it like that. You're going to end it like that. Yeah, it's a shit show in the middle, but okay, I like the bookends. I'll go with that.
That's why it was filmed for IMAX.
Yeah.
His abs needed their own credit.
But it's one thing, and I discussed with Mark, watching these movies now, it is very, very interesting the way they represent animals and use animals, because there's a lot of different animals in the film, all CGI animated stuff, except for the dog. There is a dog in the movie that is real, but then when the dog barks, it is CGI. But then when it comes back to being, okay, it is a real dog. And I'm like, wow, PETA really has a stranglehold on you. I mean, you will not, it's like you don't want to have any, even if it's for any, it's like, and I really looked at that. And that was very, very interesting to see that it's like, you've got the dog, but the dog barking is not, that's like CGI. And I'm like, wow.
The dog had to sign a disclaimer that he would not be barking in the movie.
I know, or just that like no dogs were harmed. So it's like, you know, it's going to hurt the dog's soul if you, you know, have it bark for any reason whatsoever. So I'm like, okay, fine. I agree with you with the Christopher Abbott thing. I was shocked as hell. At the same time, you know what? I love Christopher Abbott, so I'm happy to see him. Even if it is that spoiler. Wow, his demise was a big letdown. That was it was quite sudden.
Thrown from a vehicle
out of nowhere. I don't know. It just seemed like such a mess, and also I don't know. There were so many things about it that I'm just confused about, like Calypso and her, you know, law firm in London, and the reason why I guess her dress code had to be all black with gold jewelry every single day that she was working at this law firm, which I'm like, okay.
That's a requirement.
Yeah, it seemed like a major requirement, like heavy gold. Like, and then yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot. I just didn't understand a lot of the family dynamics. It seems like, okay, your mom's dead. We're going to go, like you said, we're going to go to the safari.
We go hunting.
Is she really dead though? I don't know. I think maybe she just like took off and that's it. Yeah.
Well, if she took off, she might as well be dead, because I don't think Russell Crowe's character is going to let her go. Because it's dishonorable or something. Let's just say I want to pull over because we do have Oscar winner Ariana DeBose delivering a performance that, I mean, honestly, I think the Academy should reconsider. Have they ever taken an Oscar back for a subsequent terrible performance? I don't know, but I think there's a case to be made here. Part of it is a screenplay, sure. And I would say the bookend of this with Madam Web from the beginning of the year, they've got two things going for it. Two similarities. One atrocious standout line. In Madam Web, it was that thing. My mother was researching spiders in the Amazon just before she died, and this one, Calypso is talking to Craven in this really awkward park bench scene, talking about her grandmother, and said, my grandmother died right after that trip. I never saw her again.
Yeah. No, I never spoke. Was I never spoke to her again, or I never saw her again?
No, I never saw her again.
I never saw her again.
I hate when that happens. When somebody you love dies and then you don't see him again.
She died not long after that trip, and I never saw her again.
I literally in the audience laughed out loud at that line when it dropped. I had to stifle it because I was just like, "Oh my god!"
How does nobody catch that?
I feel like it was. I told you about this, David. I'm convinced it was just a line reading. She flipped it because it would make sense. Like, I never saw her again because she died shortly after that trip.
Right.
But just the way it came out, they're probably like, the continuity guy's asleep on the set, or the director's like, yeah, fuck it. We've done this like 78 times. It's not getting any better. Let's just move on.
Best line in the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, look, here's the thing. I kind of liked Kraven the Hunter. I've heard it described as the Room of comic book movies. It's not quite that ridiculous because it does have some quality to it, even if it's not the best. But I mean, just the ridiculousness of the action sequences where Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven is trying to save his brother who's been kidnapped. So he basically parkours his way in and around the city, jumping on SUVs.
Building.
Right, and falling and just kind of getting a little bit banged up. It's amazing and it's fun. And there was part of me that secretly wished that we'd paid for those IMAX tickets. But the rest of it, there's just these long stretches. You wonder where it's going. And honestly, by the end of it, even though I didn't know who this guy was, how he connects to Spider-Man, or anything else, I'm like, I could watch him do another movie because he's just got this insane, weird dude bro energy that I feel like I want to see more of. It's like if Ken from the Barbie movie became a wannabe supervillain, and I'm fine with that. In fact, have another movie where he teams up with Ryan Gosling and they become a super duo and they fight Spider-Man. I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd watch that for many different reasons and why you'd watch that. But yeah,
there are 12 of them, 6 on each. Anyway,
yes, I would watch that. And then
but one has junk in the
make sure to wipe the drool off my face, and then I'd watch it again.
One has small ears.
Well, so does the chameleon, because when he changes into that gray alien thing, he's got like a little slit nose, and I don't know what's going on there.
Here's what boggles my mind is watching this film. I'm just sitting there going, how. And the concept, I get what they were doing with the villain verse. I'm like, there's many ways you could approach this. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Because I'm not familiar much with the material, with the characters. I mean, if you don't know the comics, they're like Katie, I know a little bit. I at least recognize some names. But even still, it was like I felt like I was missing part of the party because they would drop things or make something that was going to be epic, like the doctor name, which my son had to look up later, and he told me, "Oh no, that doctor isn't
Jackal.
The doctor, it's Jackal, yeah, and he's a different set." I'm like, "Oh, but the way they mention it and name drop it as well as the other Easter eggs, I'm like, I feel like I'm missing out on why this is important, because the foreigner shows up and I'm like, who picked that guy's name for
Punisher was busy,
and the way they trade him, because they don't do a setup really with him, and you realize it's something with his eyes, that he's a hypnotist. Okay, you don't quite get that it's hypnotism, whether or not it's either hypnotism or that he can move fast or he stuns them with his vision. It's never really established. We don't even get like just a toss-off line of why he's able to do this or not. And I'm just like,
it's all there in the name. He just wants to know what love is.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was gonna say that. Oh, but I do have another one with the foreigner.
Okay.
No, Mark's still going, and then I'll say it.
No. I'm just saying that they dropped all these characters and stuff in here almost as if we were supposed to know who they were, and unfortunately, it's just like no, and some of the Marvel films, they did that with the Eternals end credit sequence, which was like they had this character show up and only one small corner of the entire audience got very excited by seeing that individual, but the rest of the audience was dead quiet as we're sitting there going, what's with the satyr?
Well, that was what Kit Harington's cameo, or the blade
Harry
thing.
Styles and Patton
Harry
Oswalt.
Styles.
Harry Styles.
And Patton Oswalt? Was it
Yeah.
Harry Styles and Patton? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
yeah.
My thing
Sorry,
with
go ahead, Katie.
My thing with the Foreigner is, one, there was that exposition. He said, it's like, yes, he killed my mentor, who was like a brother to me. And I'm like, usually mentors aren't that. But then that was it. And it's like, I thought that might go somewhere. Like it's like he actually talks about who it was, or maybe it wasn't Kraven. It's like, how do you know that it was a hunter if no one knows who the hunter is and all that stuff? But the other thing is that I'm wondering if Tootsie, the lollipop, is going to sue for the Foreigner, because when he kept saying 1, 2, all I could think of is like 1,
The owl.
2,
Yes.
3.
Yes. How many
3.
licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Pop?
Like,
1,
one,
2, 3.
2, 3.
That would have been great if his character had been the owl. I would love that.
I would have loved if he would have just pulled out a Tootsie Pop after that. Every time he ended with
every
3,
time he did it,
he would just go like that. That would have been brilliant.
that would have been
Like,
awesome.
it made the movie 10 times better right there.
Well, so it would still be a 0.
No,
So
Yeah.
it's interesting how often this movie got delayed, and now it's out. It's it's the holiday season, and we're getting some very let's say counter a lot of movies that are countering the holiday season. Let's say Nosferatu, and we got Nosferatu and Baby Girl coming out the same day on Christmas Day, and then we have this weeks before the holidays, and I just feel like they didn't know where to drop this movie or when, and bam, and also the fact that it's, I would say, out of all of these Sony quasi Spider-Man villain movies, this is probably the hardest R of them all.
Oh,
Yeah.
by far.
Yeah.
I mean,
And for what?
violence in this is one of the hard. I mean, damn, he bites someone's nose off and then spits it at his coworker. I mean, the guy's a henchman, but he's still a coworker. But I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, he's got insurance.
that is some harsh stuff there. It's like, you just spit a guy's nose out. Someone's like, what?
Well,
the end credit scene should have been that guy's wife looking at medical bills and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting idea. If you're going to do a setup where eventually this character is going to come up against Spider-Man, because you could see Peter Parker in an R-rated fight for his life. I mean, that's the thing. I know very little about Kraven from the comics. I've read some stories that he's appeared in. The more recent incarnations, he's been sort of like a showboating, almost like reality TV host,
Right.
from what I've read. And that's not this character at all. So I don't know if Aaron Taylor Johnson could pull that off, because he does seem to have that kind of a broody thing going on. I can't believe this is the same kid from Kick-Ass from 15 years ago. I can't believe Kick-Ass was 15 years ago.
I can't believe he's got a Midwestern accent and his dad's a Russian accent.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time in New York. That's I was waiting for them to like do an aerial shot of like the school, and there's another school just up the road, which is the School for Gifted Mutants. I mean,
that'd be
because
awesome.
yeah, nice little nod. I mean, that's the thing. I enjoyed parts of this movie. It's terrible, but it wasn't unwatchable. But I kept thinking back to Madam Web, which I think is the superior movie because it tied very much into the Spider-Man lore. They went like right up to that line of everything they could legally get away with to say everything except like we're about to give birth to this kid who's gonna be Spider-Man or whatever. Or I guess my sister was. My God, that was Emma Roberts. Anyway, they really did try and tie that all together, and I wouldn't have minded seeing a Madam Web sequel. I have no idea what that would have been like, but I keep coming away from these films thinking, all right, they stepped up to the plate. It was a swing and a miss, but they planted some seeds here, and maybe if they learned some lessons, they could come out with a sequel that's worth a damn. But we're never going to find out because this movie, there's $100 million budget or something, made $11 million this weekend. I think that's the lowest opening for one of these things. And I don't mean to be gleeful about it, but I mean, David, to your point, where are you going to drop this movie? I think they dropped it at the exact right time because this feels like someone at Sony decided months ago, maybe even when Madam Web came out, look, this is over. We're going to get rid of it. We're going to go into 2025 being all about the Spider-Verse, the animated Oscar-winning franchise that they have. We're just going to put all of our eggs in that basket, probably rightfully so. And it's kind of disappointing because I don't mind the idea of a super villain, universe, but this just isn't it. And what's really weird is that if you look at the writing credits on this, you've got people who worked on the original Iron Man. You've got, J.C. Chandor, who did A Most Violent Year and Margin Call and like legit movies with great actors. I mean, one of his last ones, he did a movie with Robert Redford, 8 years ago or whatever it was. But then you also have they worked on some true schlock. So it's that melding of the great with the awful that you just come out with this mediocre, at times laugh out loud movie. You're just like, who is this for? Why did nobody pull over and say no one is going to like this?
Well, I mean, to me, this is far more rewatchable than Madam Web or Venom 3. I would watch the crap out of this again. Just because it's stupid and there's a lot of abdominals and there's a lot of Russell Crowe. There's a lot of him. Yeah,
there's a lot of. I'd watch the other two before this one. For
Russell Crownut.
Anyway, I dug Venom 3 and I enjoyed Madam Web more than this for a number of aspects of, namely the story.
Two aspects.
No, more than that. But namely the story. I mean, for as rough as Madam Web was, its story was better told than KRAVEN in many aspects. I mean,
I'm with you. I think the villain needed to be fleshed out more, but I think that's a minor screenwriting problem that could have been solved in 3 lines, and maybe it was, and it just got edited out because they had to focus on other things. David, I kind of talked to you about this. At the beginning of the movie, we mentioned the big escape, the Indiana Jones style escape of like, we're going to get on the plane because all these people are after us. You've got the female pilot in the front, and he's like barking orders at her, and she's like, okay, let's go.
She's Madam Web. Oh.
I was waiting for the post-credit sequence for that he hitches another ride, and it turns out it's Dakota Johnson. But then he would add 2 Johnsons on screen. Can that even happen?
Well, it's rated R, so you could have as many Johnsons as you want.
As long as they're not standing up.
What?
Sorry.
It's rated X now.
I couldn't read.
NC-17, 2 Johnsons like touching. No, it can't happen.
It's called docking, I think.
Or maybe if they don't touch, they just wave at each other. Then
don't cross the streams.
Yeah, don't cross the stream. NC-17.
Here's what one of the things with KRAVEN was when he went into that car chase, he didn't really parkour so much as Hulk smashed. And what I loved is the public seemed to be oblivious
Right.
to this entire event going on, from when he crashed down the building to the car weaving in the traffic and him smashing things.
And there's no police anywhere.
There's no police. People on the street are just kind of looking, going, huh, yeah, that tracks. You know,
I mean, if this is in the Spider-Man thing, though. I mean, I don't know what universe this is in. That's the thing. But I mean, if it is, you got to realize a few years before, and this is London, then they had all these like little drones going around the London Bridge and doing that. So I don't know.
That's MCU.
But that's the MCU universe. This is a different universe.
This is
Sony
Marvel non-Spider-Man.
But I'm going to give Katie some credit here, because you bring up a good point. Even though this is not the MCU official, because this is in association with Marvel.
Yeah.
It still has been established, not so much with this movie, but it's implied. I mean, because with Morbius, you had, and this is where it gets all kind of weird, because with Morbius, you had Michael Keaton's
Vulture show.
Vulture. I kept wanting to say Craven, but that's the guy we're talking about now. You had Michael Keaton's Craven, Vulture. Sorry, I'm tired and not nearly drunk enough. Showing up and interacting with Morbius, and Keaton came from the Marvel kind of universe,
but because of the multiverse,
it's all connected, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is all connected. And I got into I didn't get an argument, but it was a debate with someone because they didn't like the fact that I took a little rib going, yeah, say what you will, but Madam Web and your Venom films and Morbius are Marvel films. They're in the Marvel multiverse universe. They connected them to the MCU. So therefore, these are MCU films by association, if nothing else. So they're still in that universe. They still count as that universe.
But Marvel's in the opening of this, so that's the thing. It's Sony, it's Columbia Pictures, and it's Marvel. So
it's still a Marvel superhero film, and it's connected via nothing else but their concept of the multiverse that they set up in the MCU.
However, because they've opened up all this multiverse stuff, that does not necessarily mean that the people of this London experienced what was going on, you know, with the drones and Mysterio and all that stuff. But my point is, Katie, you had mentioned that, but it brought to mind the fact that this is a world in which they've seen the exploits of Morbius and Madam Web and God knows who else, Venom. So they might be kind of like in the regular MCU. I'm still waiting for like a Marvel's, another comic book style movie or TV show showing the everyday Joe point of view of living in this world where you've got an eternal, like, still coming out of a crack in the earth, and no one has dealt with that for like the last 6 years. So yeah, I can see them being nonplussed. I can also see them being like, well, they haven't added these characters in via CGI yet, so there's nothing to react to. That's where I'm coming from.
What was hilarious too was the build up to the lion. They play at this in this flashback with, you know, the lion that is the reason why Kraven becomes who he is. And I was expecting like a little bit larger comic book sized lion. When this lion came out, I go, Scar? You know.
Oh my God, does this connect to Mufasa? Is this a secret? That's another Disney thing.
You know what? This actually would be a good double feature with Mufasa, like with the brothers and stuff like that. And that lion was actually a little bit better than some of the lions in Mufasa. But I thought there would have been more to it. It also seemed like the lion was actually trying to possibly save Sergei from his dad rather than I don't know. I feel like I know someone had mentioned the Revenant and stuff like that, and I'm like, I could see a little bit like that, but I also feel like I don't know. I feel like he could have just like eaten him right away and stuff like that. I don't know.
Maybe he has bad taste.
He brought him to Calypso. He brought him to Calypso because you had the whole kind of foreshadowing sort of thing with the tarot card thing by Grandma. And it was prophesized that Calypso, Lion's Tower and Warrior, and she was going to help someone in the future, we didn't know it was only like 10 minutes, but in the future, she was going to help someone with the special sauce to, to heal them, and that she would know when the right time was. And I'm like, gee, a lion delivering a half-dead, chewed guy in front of me who needs to get healed. Maybe this is the right time to use. And the lion even looks at her. She doesn't like shoo him off, like go or shoot a gun off to scare him off or whatever. He kind of like drops him almost ceremoniously in front of Calypso.
I would have loved the nodding head moment where the lion was like,
go child, take him. Do what you
just
will.
A little. Yeah, you got this. Yeah.
And she administers a bit of that serum, and then later on, in the present day, the special juice, in the future when Craven has had, another near-death experience, or actually he does die, she has, right, but there's a little bit left, and she gives it to him. But I was waiting for her to take the rest. I don't know how much of this stuff you need to become a superhero, but I was thinking this was going to be Calypso's superhero origin too at some point. But no, she gives it all to him because I
love how he's got this like a Legion of Doom house in the Serengeti somewhere, and like nobody has seen it. Nobody. I mean, it's so obvious. It's just this dome and in a bunch of trees, and I'm like, this is my pad. I click this button, and all these weapons come out, and I designed it very well.
See, they didn't even handle the superhero moments heroically properly. Here we have Craven Cave, and he's gone, and she happens upon the switch, which drops down all the special like. I'm like, oh, cool, and literally 2 minutes. It's got to be 2 minutes later. Bad guys show up. He goes over, flips the switch, and drops the weapons down again. Which means at some point they retracted them, going, "Yep, Craven," only to go, "Oh no, wait, shit, we need these." And he
it's sleep mode for the armory. That's all it was. They came down. No one grabbed them for 2 minutes. They went back up. They got to come back down.
And thank goodness for summer camp, because if that hadn't happened, Craven would be dead.
That was summer camp.
That's I was like, is this a Hunger Games summer camp? Yeah. Like, where are you going, girl? Like, you just went straight through that eye. It's like, take 3, motherfucker. And I'm like, all right, look at that.
Like that crossbow compared to a bow and arrow from summer camp. I'm like, that's like
she watched a lot of Walking Dead. Big Daryl Dixon fan.
2 questions I have for you guys that I was watching it, I was a little did anyone think that the fact that Dimitri got his finger cut off and the way he handled that was a bit surprising, considering he went like in no way, shape, or form during any other time in that movie did he feel like he was like, and it's like you just had your finger cut off and you seem totally cool with it.
Until you reminded me of it, I think I had forgotten while watching the movie that he had his finger cut off.
I'm done seeing that actor for the year because I liked him in Thelma as the grandson, but then he showed up as one of the emperors in Gladiator 2, and then this, and I'm like, all right, you're done for the year.
Yeah, he's definitely taking the Caleb Landry Jones kind of 2024 of the year award.
Excellent call out. Yeah.
You like that?
Aaron Taylor Johnson, this is his 3rd film for the year. So
really?
He can do more.
He's in Nosferatu and he was in Fall Guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was pretty good in Fall Guy.
I liked Fall Guy, but the other thing is when they took Dimitri and then there was the ransom, and it's like they want $20 million, and I wrote down, is this guy supposed to be like a billionaire or something? I would think $20 million was kind of an insult.
Yeah, I mean look, 200.
I can't afford $20 million, but it's like,
well,
I don't know.
It kind of makes sense because it's not so much that it's unrealistic for him to pay it out, and but it's still a lot of money. That makes sense. I just didn't know. I don't
like. It's like we just went 20. It's like that's it. I mean, this is my son. I'm like the gangster oligarch, Russian oligarch, like that's all you want is 20 million. I'm insulted.
Let's go
How
back
dare
to
you.
the
But they also know that he doesn't have the favorite son. They've got
That's
got
true.
Demo. At the end, when Russell Crowe gets eaten by the bear,
I was just going to go there.
I was waiting, and I told you this, David,
Not
coming
that
out of the
bear.
theater. It would have been great if they had just cut to a scene of Werner Herzog with headphones on, just being repulsed by the sounds. Grizzly Man reference.
That bear looked janky as hell too.
I would have loved just a scene where Russell Crowe like rips open his shirt and goes, "Ah!"
He fights the bear and wins.
That would have been awesome.
That bear was so awful looking. I'm like, wow, this was like, did they come up with this after the fact? They did this whole movie. They're like, oh wait, we need some kind of payback to Dad. Yeah, let's do this.
Bad.
And
I
What
don't know.
would have been interesting is if at the end, with the chameleon, instead of turning into Aaron Taylor Johnson, if he had turned into their dad, like you're gonna have to,
Still tiny.
Still tiny. Yeah, tiny Russell Crowe.
a miniature Russell Crowe.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Miniature
14.
Russell Crowe. Then that would have been another, check on my bingo card. I definitely need to make a bingo card for 2025. It's like Russell Crowe accent, like of another bad accent. It's like, wow, he's really trying to knock that off.
I'm hoping that he'll just continue to make different exorcism movies and just continue to.
we'll have the Crow exorcism universe.
Yes. So did you guys catch when the Rhino guy was making his deal with the goons that he was supposed to kill off and everything? He pulls up in an SUV and the license plate says one
Rhino. It said Rhino. Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was the first of a number of times I laughed out loud in the theater. I was like, the minute it came out, I just kind of chuckled. I'm like, huh. Wow. Nobody
will see me coming.
I'm just like, wow.
There's some intern working on this picture who's like, guys, I got this amazing idea, and he probably got some kind of promotion for it. Speaking of that scene, it was very much the Joker, the Heath Ledger with the pool cue thing of like, I got a position, but it can only be one of you. The guy who wins that competition, I swear to God, looked like Rob Zombie, and it was such a waste because he's dead in the next scene. I mean, come on, have some filler, give some time, because I thought, okay, maybe he's going to be the 8th supervillain in this movie. I don't know, but no, he's dead. I guess that was you think he's going to be an important character, but he's dead, all Janet Leigh style. Aren't we artistic? I mean, no.
And that's what's amazing. What caught me so much with this film too, it's 2 hours and 7 minutes, which gives you time to do certain things, but they blow through this like it's a 90-minute film. Like, oh, we only got a 100-minute runtime, so we've got to cut this out and this out, but we'll throw this in. So it just is a series of events that you're like, I still don't see Craven at the end of this film as a villain. I didn't see him as a villain in the beginning. Yeah, they were kind of brutal kills, but we saw that with Wolverine. I'm like, when am I supposed to see some darker side that makes this guy an actual villain? And then I was talking to Katie about this. Where's the freaking list? They talk about a list. There's a list. We see it one time. He opens up, and it's not even his list. It's just a ledger that he opens up. And
I lost a book.
And they talk about how, he's on the list. You don't get off it unless you die. And I'm like,
just like Santa Claus. Yeah.
Well, no, Mark, they don't even go that far.
That's why it's a Christmas movie, because it's just like Santa Claus.
Your kiss is on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was that Foreigner too? No,
no, that's Hall & Oates.
Yeah. But no, Mark, you got it mostly right. It's you don't get off the list. They don't say until you die, which is what makes it ridiculous. It's like once you're on the list, you never get off of it. I'm like, so what if you're dead? Do they just leave you on there? They don't cross it off or anything? It's just like, that seems very inefficient.
Well, and it felt like it was totally borrowed from Green Arrow. I mean, even line for line, it's like he's got a list of enemies that he's taking down one by one. And I'm like, this all seems really familiar.
Well, yeah, but that was a different comics universe, so it doesn't count, Mark.
I disagree, though, in what you were saying, that this is a good time for this movie to come out. I actually think it should have come out in August. One, when kids are out of school, they're not worried about school and all that stuff. Right now, there's so many kids that are like worried about finals and homework and stuff. Like for a big release, it's kind of, I mean, you know, coming out this coming weekend, right before Christmas, everyone's going to be out of school. But August, the kids are going to be out, and they've missed a prime opportunity for people to be dressed up as Kraven for Halloween. I mean, if you're going to do that, you can at least have it closer to Halloween where people can get dressed up. I mean,
Right.
I don't want to see like little shirtless 8-year-olds wandering around the block with the giant like fur boas or whatever. But no, Katie, I disagree with you. I contend that the kids who are worried about their final exams aren't the target audience for Kraven the Hunter. They're too busy finding new and interesting ways to eat glue. No, I take your point, but yeah, it just really does seem like, and this is pure speculation and mostly bullshit, but yeah, it's like, let's just dump this. We'll get it out by the end of the year. There's no way it's going to make money. Well, let me ask you, what was out in August? Was there, because it feels like it was 7 years ago. What would it have been competing against?
Oh, Blink Twice.
let me check.
Oh yeah.
No, David, I said, what would it be competing against?
No, Blink Twice.
His three daughters.
Well, there you go.
Alien Romulus.
That's Netflix.
Okay.
Blink Twice. Deadpool and Wolverine would have come out before that.
But it was still going strong. So
Yeah.
Between Alien Romulus and Wolverine, there's no way this would have done anything. There is no good time for this movie to come out.
January is fine.
Beetlejuice was September, and so was The Front Room and Speak No Evil. So yeah, I mean, actually, August would have been a great time. You would have had like the tail end of Deadpool and Wolverine, which had already been out, so we could have had something else. But yeah.
Well, but I mean, that's the thing. Deadpool Wolverine came out in like early or
July.
mid-July. And it was the #1 movie for something like, it was like 6 weeks. So this would have been right up against that. And I maintain that the stink on this film would have been such that it probably would have had a very similar opening. Maybe you get another $5 million because it's the tail end of summer or something. But again, I don't think, and we'll ultimately never know. I think this movie is going to go away. It's not even going to be resurrected as like, oh, it's a cult movie. It's so funny. It's bad. It's just kind of bad. But funny enough that it's not, unwatchable. I don't know if I would ever own this movie. We do need to talk about the Rhino a little bit before we wrap up, because I was flabbergasted at the cartoonishness of the face. Like, I don't know what was going on with that. It didn't even look like the actor anymore. It looked like this cross-eyed cartoon monster.
Oh, you know what I wrote down? That it really reminded me of Clash of the Titans from the 80s. So
Clash,
do
not insult Ray Harryhausen like that.
I mean, not really a compliment, because I mean, I love Clash of the Titans from the 80s. In the 80s, to see all that stuff, but just it's like, if I'm trying to say like it looks like that now, it's like, yeah, no, it shouldn't look like something from 40 years now. Like that's not a compliment.
I will go that, it shouldn't look like that now. But then again, if Ray was still alive and he had tools that he had, it would have looked a lot better.
I can see it looking a lot better.
If it was the 80s, they would have done more practical effects. And what's funny is, I'm like sitting here now, again, I'm not the huge Marvel fan, but I know Rhino. If anything, when I grew up as a kid and I watched the Spider-Man cartoons, or if I picked up a comic, Rhino was pretty prevalent. But any movie iteration of Rhino we've gotten, how do you get this wrong? It's a guy who's a thief who has a Rhino costume that ends up getting bonded to him, and he uses it to make heists. How do you get this wrong? It's so simple yet so effective of a concept.
Well, that was my thing, and they don't feel like because again, fine, spoon feed it to me. When he says that why he turned into Rhino was because he was trying to figure out he was insulted by Russell Crowe, and he went to that doctor who then did this to him, but then he had to, it's like, so wait, so then did you kill the doctor? Because I don't feel like this is a good thing. And then you have to have, like, you know, your, what'd you call it, Ian, the magic backpack?
Yeah.
His magic backpack that has the fluids in there, where he does look like he's in Book of Mormon with that thing. But I don't feel like any of this is like, yay, look what you did, yay. Like how does that help you?
Like a creature from Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
Well, and he still, it seemed like he did it because he had asthma. It was hard, but he still seems like he has asthma. So
And,
it's like,
and he even said he's in so much pain when he does it. So it's like,
Yeah.
is it worth it?
I'm like, I'm not seeing the benefits here. Like, why did you do this, dude?
I don't know if that would have been an interesting story to get into, because when he takes out the little valve and connects it to the fluid, or I can't remember if he does that or if he takes it off.
He takes it off, he becomes Rhino.
Right, okay. That's right. The fluid kind of keeps him normal. I feel like he does that as a scare tactic to the people that he's dealing with. Like, you don't want to mess with me. I look like a nerd, but I can turn into this monster. And that's why he doesn't do it all the time, because it hurts a lot. My thing was, I think he mentions that his skin becomes like tough like a rhino. And I understand the comic book origin and everything, but at the end, when he fully manifests that horn on his head, I was like, it didn't have to be so literal. I don't know. It's messed up. And you're right, Mark. I don't know why it's so hard to do this character. Even if in that awful Paul Giamatti thing where the big payoff was he gets taken out of the machinery and he's got like, heart polka dot underwear or something like that.
Well, I mean, again, it's one of those Marvel. Not even Marvel. It's one of those comic book characters that are better on the page than on the screen, big screen, or better animated. I would love to see a Rhino in the Spider-Verse, or something. You just can't. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't look right. It doesn't translate well to live action. I'm sorry. I
don't know that we've seen it really attempted. I mean, because I think about what they did with Juggernaut in Deadpool 2.
I was just going to say Juggernaut.
But in Deadpool 2 specifically, it's not that big of a leap from that to Rhino.
Yeah,
but it's not that big of a threat either. Like Juggernaut's supposed to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
He's not formidable at all, really.
Well, but what I'm saying is, like, I think it's possible to realize the Rhino character, even if it's just a minor cameo, like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, or I think that's when he showed up. Even if you just have the guy who is in that Rhino armor and Peter Parker defeats him, it's like, it's a guy he's a mutated Rhino guy, whatever. He's in the movie for 5 minutes. There's no reason to go that ultra convoluted, complicated route of, he built this machine that kind of looks like a Rhino, because the fans of the comics are going to be pissed off. The general audience is going to be like, this looks stupid. And I don't know what's with that Russian accent. But the only thing I got out of this Rhino is, it would have been cool if this character had shown up in Heretic. Like, he's the guy that Topher Grace sends to the house after the girls go missing. I would have loved to have seen that. But anyway.
you mean non-Rhino guy? Or okay.
No, the Rhino, before he turns into the Rhino, because he looks like a missionary.
Hugh Grant's door as the Rhino? Okay.
That would be interesting. He gets in, and Hugh Grant throws him in the basement, and he's like,
do you have any Tylenol? I'm in pain.
He goes to the basement. You're going to see something wonderful, and he's like, "Oh no, you're going to see something wonderful." And then he unplugs the thing, and then he becomes Rhino.
That's what was funny too, is he unplugged it and it didn't close up, so it was an easy access.
It was an easy access port. It is rock. His skin was supposed to be rock hard or whatever, and yet he was able to get trampled by the water buffalo.
Water buffalo trample over rocks.
Cebu, excuse me.
It's none of it makes any damn sense. But
It's
fortunately, we don't have to contend with this movie anymore, because it's flopped hard. I think Sony Marvel is dead. Long live Sony Marvel. I gotta take a swig of coffee because something's caught in my throat.
The only thing I say is I saw rumors.
That BDE. What?
Supposedly there were rumors online that was saying that they didn't actually have it in the contract that they didn't have to use Spider-Man, that it was actually a decision by the studios because they thought it would cause confusion with it being connected with the Marvel Studios Spider-Man characters. That's a number of sites and reporters and that's a story that's circulating, that they had that. Also, apparently something along the lines with Madam Web, to where they pulled like 20 or 30 pages just before production started, which caused some problems with folks saying, how are we going to do this story? But I'm just saying that on one hand, I see this. On the other hand, I'm wondering how much was the call of the studios going, oh no, we got to do our own thing. We can't just,
Well, I mean, if what you're saying is true, and I don't doubt it, it sounds like a decision a Sony executive would make. I mean, there's a way to incorporate Spider-Man into these movies without getting confused with the other films. Namely, you never have him take off. This is something that fanboys have been complaining about for 2 decades. Just have him never take off the mask. Have him be kind of like the villain in a regular superhero movie, but with a lot less origin-y stuff.
Yep.
He's the guy that pops up that Morbius has to fight, or KRAVEN has to fight, or Venom or something, and they have a little fight and they go away and you focus back on the story of the villain at hand. That's really, really dumb. I always thought it was a rights sharing issue between the studios, but all right. Well, any final thoughts on KRAVEN before you?
I think when a movie bombs this hard opening weekend, you should do some type of community service. But
by pulling it from theaters, yeah, that's no longer.
Go Aaron Taylor Johnson, go feed the homeless or something. I don't know.
We should be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
I would like a sequel, just with the beginning and the end of the film.
Just a random end credit sequence to another film that would just feature the beginning and end of
the abs.
Yeah, just him getting onto the plane.
I love how he turns around when he's in the hangar of the plane. He's like,
as he turns.
It was very Jason Momoa. I mean, it's like, dude, are you guys like seriously? Are you just doing all that? But then when he had that little, and it's, I'm sorry, but it's like, this is a gift from your father. I made you this little lion vest. It doesn't really look like it fits you because you look a little. It's a little too little. But I'm gonna let you wear it because you're my son. I'm like. I mean, I'm not complaining, Daddy. All right.
Accurate.
That's still, I mean, that is a little bit, small.
Yeah,
that is really
that looks like a giant octopus flying off his shoulders. I don't know what's going on there.
But it's like, ooh, your little lion vest.
I think my final thought is I want Sony, since they like to waste money, get the budget together and give me the hot trash fire dumpster that would have been the Sinister Six. We've got all of these films that have pretty much failed except for Venom. Go all in. Give me one final where you have Morbius and KRAVEN and Madam Web and Venom and Vulture in there. Just do that. Even Rhino, you bring back Suit Rhino. Just throw them all into a movie to have it be such a train wreck that it would be a thing of beauty. But that's because I love my campy B movies. But I'm like, just go all in, because to have all of that hot trash in one movie would have just been one of those to where it would survive in cultdom for like
I could kind of see that, but there's a problem. I mean, because 2 of those 6, as we've established, aren't 3 of those 6 aren't really villains, at least portrayed in these origin movies. Madam Web is certainly not. KRAVEN is not, and we also have Eddie Brock Venom. I mean, he's not a villain. He's attached to a brains hungry symbiote. But we're not dealing with the Eddie Brock from the comics, certainly. And what's really sad is that much like with Marvel, I guess Fox Marvel, blowing every opportunity to do the Phoenix saga, Marvel and Sony Marvel have blown every opportunity they've had to do the Sinister Six, because they tried building up to that in the Amazing Spider-Man films, and that went nowhere. And now you've got these. So I feel like anybody, for time in memoriam, they're gonna be like, hey, we could reboot the Spider-Man universe and we can have him go up against the Sinister Six, like his big, baddie throwdown foes, and someone's gonna be like, you're fired, get out of here. We're gonna go back to I don't know, the Owl.
No, that's a great idea. You're hired.
Daredevil. Yeah, there you go. Because everyone fails upwards. I don't know. I'm kind of done talking about Kraven. Anybody else have any final wrap-up thoughts?
It sucks. No, just kidding.
You made Howard the Duck look really good.
There you go.
Oh, dude, that's the sequel. Kraven hunts Howard the Duck.
That would be amazing.
I mean, after all,
Howard the Duck is
Howard the Duck is a Phase Zero MCU film, so
yeah.
I wish you could have had the tone and feel of those like 90s movies, like The Phantom or The Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, kind of campy, kind of pulpy, but whatever.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And you're right. That would have been a very different, very fun movie, and fun in a way that is intentional rather than unintentional. Right. I haven't watched The Phantom since it came out in 96, but I remember loving that movie.
Yep.
All right. Well, so I think we're just going to leave it here. Did
no one say anything about Kraven while we were talking?
No one commented on Kraven.
No one?
No, nothing. But it's a Tuesday. It's not our usual Wednesday crowd, but we do appreciate those who dropped in. If you liked this live stream, please like and subscribe and all that other business, and please support Earth's mightiest critics, such as me, Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, and David Fowley of Keeping It Real, and Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of Special Mark Productions, and Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front, also known as the bald in front, but not so much anymore. I mean, it's coming roaring back.
No.
It's not even a buzz anymore. So.
No, it's not.
You were the blonde, then the bald, then the buzz. You're gonna be the blonde again. It's coming full circle.
I'm gonna be the blonde again. 2025. It's full circle.
There you go.
Again, Mufasa, circle of life. See, there you go.
Boy.
That's what happens.
Okay, you've talked about this movie way more than I think anyone else has on this show. So you've seen Mufasa, Katie?
I did. I saw it last night.
And
I just had a conversation with someone, because there's a number of things about it that I really did enjoy. One of them, shock, Blue Ivy Carter. I think she does an amazing, she's an amazing voice actress. I actually did not know who she was. I thought the child actress that was playing this character just sounded great. And then I found out it's little, I watched The Lion King before I watched Mufasa, and it is very interesting hearing the little drops that Scar and Mufasa have with each other. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I didn't pick up on this much animosity between you two and stuff, but I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And it has potential, and it had potential, but then it kind of lost it. I'm not sure about I don't understand live action when it's totally animated, if they're just supposed to look like live action animals. And yet some of it was amazing, like full body chill moments. It's, a whole story about brothers and bitterness and that. And I'm kind of like in between. I feel like, I love Barry Jenkins, who's the director. I was very surprised that the music was Lin-Manuel Miranda. So at least I know why Moana's music wasn't that great. But this music was not that great. In fact, there was a song that the antagonist sings, and I'm like, who was smoking or snorting or doing something when they wrote this? Because this is not good. Yeah, so I'm kind of like half and half with it, but I'm still letting it sink in. But I do think it is a something to behold for the eyes.
Well, that's a ringing endorsement for me to wait till Disney Plus.
Which will be 17 days. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, hell, Red 1 is out already. But anyway, thank you, everybody. This has been fun. it's another situation where the conversation is much more enjoyable than the movie. Although I would say Craven is not a complete waste of time. If you have any inclination to see it, go see it right now, because it's not going to be in the theaters for very long. In fact, it might, by the time this show is over, it might already have been yanked. But anyway, thank you everybody out there, and thank you for joining me, my esteemed critics panel. This is our last live show of 2024, but we will be back in 2025 with more live roundtables, and we're closing out the year in style with some more panels. They're just not going to be live, unfortunately, but we'll figure it out. So everybody out there, thank you very much for hanging out with us this Tuesday evening. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. Until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thanks very much and take care. And long live Sony Marvel, I guess.